Hello, welcome to the THC show. My name is J3richo Ros3, and I'm your host. And the topic of today's show is drum medicine. And here to explore this journey with me is Sedona, Arizona's walking crow. He's a curandero, and some may say shaman. And we're going to give him a chance to break down for us why we need drum medicine in our lives.
Oh.
And it seems like our country could use a good bit of it right now. So thank you. Thank you.
Seems like everybody could use a bit of it right now, a good bit of it, especially in the U.S.
Oh yeah, it's getting a little crazy. Yeah, man. So I got to talk to you. Fortunately for me, sorry you guys didn't get the preamble, but I got to talk to Walking Crow about a week ago as we started planning on this interview, and man, I was really just blown away by the conversation. Me and my beloved were. We really, see your authenticity, man, and you're a really amazing guy. Really glad that you made it to the show to grant your wisdom to the listeners.
Yeah.
So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to fall back from my voice and give you the platform to kind of just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do and why we need it.
Oh, well, my name's Walking Crow, and what I do is called the Transformational Sacred Drum Medicine. I am a curandero. Some people would call me a shaman. Some people would call me a medicine man, a healer. I am a philosopher. I am a teacher, a mentor. I am a media host. I used to host my own show. I am a poet, a musician. I'm a drum maker, a rattle maker, everything that I do revolves around the drum from the basis of the heart. Everything that I do revolves around the heart from the basis of the drum, because that is the first sound we heard in utero. It was how we connected to mother as we floated in the holy vapor, the sacred vapor, the water bag within our mother's body as we developed over a 9-month period. Now, I want to make it clear that number 9 months, 9 is spiritual completion. I hope. And we got pushed out into the light. And when that happened, it used to be that when we got pushed out into the light from the womb, we got taken directly back to the breast, right back to the heart space, right back to heart, air, lungs, I love, I'm loved. And we fed from that place. We fed from a place of love, from a place from memory, mammary. Memory, mammary, and that's heavy. This isn't something that people taught me. This is something that the guides have given me, and I started to share it years ago, and it's just become part of my medicine with the drum making, with the energy healing, with the mentoring. There's a word play that I do. There's a thing that I do with words. It's a word play where the guides will give me a word that's like this close to something else, and then we start making connections. So there's a lot of different types of medicines that I carry, and a lot of ways that I use them that are interconnected. And I never intended to start out that way. I was started as an energy healer. And then as no sooner did I start doing that than I started getting the message downloads. And the guides started inviting me to do other things like making the drums. And I go out to the canyons or to the Red Rock here, and I channel songs. All the songs that I sing, I channel, and I don't even know what the language is. And I was told by a Navajo grandmother that what I speak and what I sing in is called spirit language, to always say yes to that.
Wow, that's interesting. So I'm assuming that before this interview is over, you're going to let us hear one of your songs.
That can happen.
So I'm
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, we would definitely love that. I mean, if you had anything that you wanted to bless the country and the world with right now, oh man, I think we could all use a little bit of healing right now. There's a lot going on, and I really want to make the majority of this interview about exploring drum medicine and giving you the platform to discuss this and answer questions about it as they come up. But before it's all said and done, I wouldn't mind hearing your take and your advice on just what's going on in the world right now and what's going on in our country right now, because we need some shamanic wisdom.
Well, interestingly enough, I had a gentleman that I mentor from Grass Valley, California, reach out to me the other day. He said, "Hey, I played your song Ayo Nana Owai at my men's group." He said they loved it, and I started to cry. Because that song, Ayo Nana Owai, is a song about, it's a promissory song to the self to heal the child within and to bring the child forward into the present time, the present life, to heal the man, to heal the whole, to heal the adult and the child together through integration of the child and the man after a lifetime of not being able to. You know what that's about. You've come into your walk, you've come into your awakened state, you've come into your awareness, and the key to the healing is really the awareness and the willingness. So it's all in awe. See what they just did? What the guides just did? It's A and W, awareness and willingness. It's in awe.
That's awesome.
Okay. Thank you. But see, that's the kind of thing that they do for me, and it catches people's attention that happens in just simple conversation and sharing, that kind of download comes. And if we can be in awe of ourselves, right?
Right.
We can mend those two entities of child and man, you and I, child and man, and we can become a different kind of entity in this world. We can become a force in this world, a power in this world. We become rooted in this world, and we become fruited. And those who are listening to you and I like to say this: I am rooted and I am fruited. I'm the tree that didn't get knocked down by the four winds. What are your four winds? There's 1,000 of them, right? I extend my branches into the heavens, and the birds of the air nest in my branches and eat of my fruit. And what is my fruit? My fruit is the experience that I share of how I got from point A to point B, and that's it, and that's all. And like George Lopez says, me too, you too, me too.
Yeah.
It's mirroring it for the people. When I say something and I do say, and people really connect with it, it's like fishing. They want more of that, and really the guides and the spirits and the ancestors have really given me the materials and the ability to connect with people in a way that I never thought I could. I'm a POC from Pacoima, California, in Los Angeles, and I grew up in the barrio, and I'm surrounded by violence and things, and I was always told I was dumb, I was stupid, I was fat, they told me I was a nigger, I had big lips, blah 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 blah, and here I am today, and I stand in more power than our weakest link in the United States can't even do. Our president, he can't even stand in his power. I stand in my power. I stand by what I say, and I say what I stand in, because I brought that child forward, and that child is with me and is embraced and embraces me, and he doesn't call me papi, but boy, that knowing that I've been able to do that in my life is all I want to do for other people in their lives. Now, I can't do it for you, but I can guide you on that journey, and that's what I want to do. And that really, it comes from a place of the drum, the place of the heart, the place of memory, heart, lungs, air. I love, I'm loved. Heart, lungs, air. I don't have the capacity to love, or I don't have the capacity to be loved. Which is it? We have to make a choice. Which is it? I made a choice. Just like you did, my brother. You made your choice, and here you are from a life of, I mean, people know me as Tony for my life, but not a lot of people call me Tony anymore, because Tony was that other guy.
I know exactly what you mean. I have several aliases.
And because of my work, I don't even want to be called Anthony. I've become sovereign in who and what I am, a sovereign from my upbringing. I become sovereign as Walking Crow. And my church is the transformational sacred drum medicine. And not necessarily a church, but what is a church to each individual? Some people, it's like being at the river, being at the ocean, being in the mountains, being in a meadow. You know, what is your church? And my church is sharing with as many people as I can, because look, you see the way that I look. In 2011, 2012, when I became a healer, I was 238 pounds.
Wow.
And everybody says, what diet did you do? Oh my God, I want to do your diet. I'm like, I don't believe in diets. D-I-E-T, die. Die is the first part of that word. We have to let ourselves die in and of ourselves. Shed the wounds, shed the hurts, shed the fears, shed the anger, shed all those things so we can die and we can become new. Like the Christ consciousness had to die to become the ascended master.
Yes.
And outside my window here, there's a grandmother oak tree. And she's starting to sprout the acorns. Now I use the acorns as I gift them to people, and they say, what's this for? And I say, the acorn, to become the mighty oak, has to die dry in and of itself to grow into the mighty oak. It will not grow into an oak from a green seed. That seed has to die, like the Christ consciousness had to die, like I have to die. I have to let go and purge everything. Either I am or I'm not. And I did that. And here I am at 160 pounds for the last 7 years.
Congratulations, brother.
I don't gain weight. I don't take all those medications I used to take for high blood pressure. For I used to be on insulin. I only take two medications now, and that's just to maintain my levels of diabetes.
Interesting.
So, what do you want, really? What do the people want that say they want help? Really? No, really. And it sounds like I'm being sarcastic, but I'm going to yank your chain, because don't bullshit me, because I'm the bullshitter's bullshit. I know you are too. So you know when people are lying to you, and when they lie to me, I say, I'm looking at you. I carry owl medicine. Please don't tell me that, because I'm looking at you, and I'm going to start pulling the thread of your sweater and unraveling it right here and right now, and you're going to have an emotional breakdown, because it's what has to happen.
It has to, yeah.
The cup needs to be emptied to refill the cup. Whole.
This is true.
Oh. See, I get wired up. When I start going, boy, it's like a locomotive. It ain't gonna stop.
But see, people need that from you and from people like us, because it takes you to know that someone has learned how to be honest with themselves, for you to have the support to know that you can do it yourself. You know, if you give them the shoulder to lean on and cry on, so that they can break down and say, okay, I see you fixed yourself, how can you fix me? And then you giving them that space, you're holding space for them to actually let it die.
And what I do is I don't do it I empower them by saying, I'm not gonna heal you, you're gonna heal you. Well, I can show you how.
Yeah.
You know, just like when I say that whole thing, I am rooted and I am fruited, and I say, I did not get knocked down by the four winds. I may lose a branch and I may lose my leaves, but I'm still here. I'm still standing. That song by Elton John, I'm Still Standing, right? Yeah. That's so poignant. You know, we all go through so many things. You shared with me about your life. We all go through so many things. I mean, how did we survive that? How did I survive the car crashes, the fights, the drunks, the drugs?
By sheer will.
If you think about it, I'm no different than anybody else. I don't have any more grace than anybody else. I have the same amount of grace as everybody. And what's interesting about grace is I've always known that I have grace. And I used to go to a place where they like to dole out grace based on who and what you are, how much money you got. Churches do that crap.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, and I've been sober 28 years. And there's this thing that sober people like to do from the podium when they're talking to groups. They'll see somebody in the group who may be still drunk, you know, as a newcomer, or they saw somebody in the street who was still drunk, and they'll talk about them this way: "There, but for the grace of God go I." And my heart says, how dare you? Who do you think you are, that you think you're better than that guy just because he's drunk? Spirit's in, spirit out. So what? He still has grace. And we all have the equal amount of God's grace. No one has any more or less than anybody. And how dare arrogance of a sober person, because I'm sober, but I don't talk like that. How dare you do that and try to be something you're not?
Yeah.
It's like, and see, I will call them on the carpet, because I had to call me on the carpet for my BS. Man, I just didn't know how to do better. I just didn't know how to be better. I went to Catholic school. They tried to beat it into me.
Yeah, they tried to, me too.
That doesn't work for everybody. Everybody has a different capacity for learning, for being, for doing.
True.
You know, for feeling. You notice I didn't say thinking. Because everybody thinks, but everybody, and most people get stuck there in the thinking, and they get stuck in the thinking, and they don't get into the being of the doing and the doing of the being. I'm of the doing. My feet are moving, not my mouth, but I can run. I can move my mouth as fast as I can move my feet, because I have the track record to prove it.
Yeah.
You know, whatever that track record looks like, and the only one who can know what it looks like is you. If you're watching and hearing what it is that I do and say, does his mouth match his feet? Does his feet match his mouth? Is he full of crap? Or this guy, what did you say about your girlfriend and you, your lady and you, your beloved, about when we talked last week? You know, you got it. You know, you honored me. Here I am. You're honoring me again by being on your show. And thank you. You know, I'm very honored for you seeing me. You know, I don't know who sees me out in the world, and honestly, I don't care, because I'm going to do what I do irregardless.
I found you on Instagram, remember? And like, I was struck by, you know, what you were doing, and I wanted to know more, because at the time I saw this, at the time, I'm sorry, not saw this, but at the time I first came across your username on there, my beloved had just made a drum herself. This one here I showed you. And I was supposed to attend that workshop and make a drum as well, but I couldn't, because I was in another town that weekend, and I'm waiting on this guy to come back. Like, when is he coming back so I can make a drum? But you know what? I would like not be opposed to seeing if maybe we could get a workshop for you to do something around Orlando or around Florida. I'd love to attend, you know, one of your workshops.
I have one coming up later this month here in Sedona. I do them monthly now. Okay. And whether there's one person or 5 people, I limit the drum making to only 5 or 6 people, because what I want is to give everybody my full attention, my full time. And when there's 10 or plus people, I've done those. It's like, not every, you know, somebody's going to feel left out.
Yeah.
You know, and not only that, when I do a drum, we do one kind of hide. Everybody does the same size. Everybody does the same medicine. Because what I don't want is somebody looking around and getting envious about what somebody else is doing, about their hide, about their drum, their size.
Yeah.
I want to have a level playing field and have everybody feel equally as good about what it is they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I've only been, you know, I've discussed the process a little bit of, you know, what she went through to make it and all of that, you know, and I mean, I definitely will be making a drum. I just don't know when. But if I get out to my mom's and visit out in Phoenix, like I told you, you know, I'd be trying to do soon. I would love to stop by and say hi, and, you know, possibly maybe attend one of your workshops. That would be really, really.
There you go. You know, there's a lot of ceremony in what I do. There's a lot of tobacco. There's a lot of plant medicine, water, fire, air. All those elements, the 4 elements that live in our body, the earth, water, fire, air, are in that medicine as well. And I don't even refer to it as a making of a drum. I refer to it as a birthing or a rebirthing of a drum. a rebirthing of the elements, because, you know, for all intents and purposes, the animal is dead, and for all intents and purposes, the tree is dead. And what I do through ceremony and intention is bring those two elements together and bring them back to life. And they are no longer inanimate objects. Now they are alive through vibration.
Yeah.
The hide breathes, the intonation and the sound of the hide on the frame is going to change with the weather, with the moisture, with the heat, with the dry air. So it's a living, breathing organism again. You know. So, and I love talking about that. In fact, somebody approached me because they can't. They had trouble selling. Like I had drums in a gallery, and I sold 3 good drums in 3 months here in Sedona. I don't need to sell 3 drums in 3 months. I don't want to sell 3 drums in 3 months. I'm paying rent, right? So right before COVID-19 happened, I went to the gallery and I pulled all my drums out, and that's what's been paying my bills since I did that. And I probably sell 2 drums a week.
That's good.
You know, because I'm in the medicine, I'm in the doing, I'm in the being, I'm in the being, I'm in the doing, and it's not that really the drum that they're buying, it's not really the drum that they're experiencing. They're experiencing transformational sacred drum medicine, walking crow. You're experiencing the passion that I talk about. You're hearing it right now.
Yeah.
You know, I've had people walk up to, I've done art sales, arts and craft sales here in Sedona, and people walk up and they look at a drum, and the first drum they touch, and they look at it and they look at it, and then they go through all the drums and they say, "I'll be back." And in my heart, I go, "Oh, they won't be back." You know how that is. They're kicking tires.
Yeah.
So they go and they come back, and they don't touch anything but the first drum that they touched. Because I've already given them the lowdown on how the drum is made, with the tobacco and the sacred water and flowers and plant and mint and rosemary, and all those plants that are growing in my yard go into that drum, along with all the love that I have that goes into that drum, and the knowledge of medicine that I have, and the passion goes into that. You know, I had a guy.
Can't put a price on that.
No, I had a woman give me a 7-sided 22-inch frame. And I'm like, what am I going to do with a 7-sided frame? We don't use 7-sided frames, but it was a gift, so I decided to use it. I made a big 22-inch 7-sided drum. And when I was tying it, I'm like, how am I going to tie this? Because I usually do it in the you have one like yours in the 4 directions.
Yeah.
Right?
You mean like this part?
Yeah. I usually tie it in the way of the 4 directions, right? But with 14 ties, because I did 2 to each side, I'm going to do that. So what I did was I only did 2. And what happened was it was really wide, and as I braided it, because I braid, I created a butterfly, a huge butterfly on the back of that drum. And that guy turned that over. He was like, "Wow!" And this was a guy. We're talking about a man's man, you know. I didn't think he was going to buy this drum. Not only did he buy that drum, in fact, his wife bought it for him for his birthday. When I went to check my account later, because he used his credit card, he gave me a 20% tip on a $635 drum.
Wow. I mean, if you're braiding it and doing, like, you can see the work that's going into that. I mean, at least some of the physical work, maybe not all of the mental and spiritual work, but yeah, that's amazing. I wouldn't, you would have to sit down and show me how to do this, because I would not know where to begin.
Well, the funny thing about that is I was dating this woman a couple of years ago here in the area, and she said, she was a hairstylist. She says, "Where did you learn how to braid?" I'm like, "I don't know how to braid." She goes, "Well, that's what you're doing." I'm like, "Oh, I didn't know I had to give it a name." Right? And see, that goes back to what we talked about the other day when you asked me, you said, "Well, what do you call yourself?" I'm like, You call me whatever you want. The community calls me whatever it is that I am, right? I don't have an attachment. I don't create an attachment to the thing because I don't know.
Yeah.
It keeps me free from getting hung up on that.
Yeah.
So, oh, it's braiding. Oh, okay. I thought I was weaving something. I don't know what it's called.
A healer.
So I get to laugh at myself and have fun and say, okay.
True, true.
Yeah.
I wish that I had gotten that original conversation too, all on camera. I mean, I wish I had saved our original Zoom call, and I would have just added that as an addendum, like you guys should hear this too, because we had some really good conversation there too. I'm hoping we can backtrack on some of that, you know, about basically like some details about the past as far as when you started, what got you into the drumming in the first place. You said you were into other kinds of healing first.
What's interesting is I've been drumming since banging on stuff since I was in second grade. I was flunked in second grade.
From banging?
Which is part of my story.
Oh,
right?
wow.
I was 8 years old.
I was gonna say 8.
It's an infinite number, right? Infinite power, infinite spiritual power. So at 10 years old, I think, my father bought a pair of congas. They were always in the house, and I was always banging on stuff, and that's just the way it was. But as I became a healer, I was in an Afrobeat orchestra in Los Angeles called Mexico 68. We were very political. We were we were more left than anybody could get. So, you know, in fact, that's a band that would be relevant right now with what's happening because we were already singing about it.
Yeah.
We were already singing about all this stuff. I was in that band, and I joined that band when I became a healer. So it was a part of my awakening. It was part of me growing out of the mud and moving up through the murky water towards the sun, towards the light, and towards my being, towards my seeing, towards being seen, right? You don't know that what did I just call it? Not an orchid. The lotus is there until it gets to the top and then it opens. You have no idea it's there until you see it, right? Till it serves its purpose. Just like me, I served my purpose, and I was in this band, and I'm playing the shekere and dancing. I didn't play congas. I didn't play nothing else. I played shekere, but I got into the band playing saxophone very badly.
Oh wow!
I have a great ear. I can play stuff just on the cuff, but I didn't have the ligature to be playing that kind of music. So we got some real horn players come in to play the songs, and they wanted to kick me out of the band. And the band leader says, "Man, we can't kick him out. That guy has more energy than all of you guys." He said, "Anthony," he said, "when you came here, I saw you shaking people's hands and asking for phone numbers." He said, "That's what I want in this band. I want somebody who connects with people and is always going out of his way and above and beyond to be a part of something." So he said, "The guys want you out of the band, but I can't let you go. Will you play the shekere?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll play the shekere. I'll rock that motherfucker. I don't care. I'll dance," which caused another problem. So I play shekere, and I'm dancing, and I'm singing, and I'm out in front of the band doing what I'm doing, and the guys are getting jealous because I'm out front. They want me to go to the back. I'm like, and so I said, okay. So for one gig, I went to the back, and our audience is like, "Hey, where's Anthony? Where'd he go? How come he's not in the front?" See, it's always something with other people. Their ego gets involved, and I was just having a good time.
Yeah.
In fact, I was probably one of the few guys in the band who didn't get stage fright. I was just like, I was ready. I was out there, and I would walk into a club or wherever, and I would smudge, and I would do my medicine as I walked in. Right? So I'm in this band, and I meet this woman in Los Angeles, Stormy, beautiful, beautiful native woman. Oh my gosh. And she says, "You know what? Sarah Eaglewoman is doing Spirit Circle at the Golden Bridge yoga, and she needs somebody to play drums." I said, okay. See, this is what I do. I say yes to the request. I don't, well, let me think about it. Well, I don't know. My low self-esteem is melting away. So I say yes. And I show up, and they have this big powwow drum, and I show up with my shekeres and rattles and things. And I've never played a drum like that before. So I get involved. What happened is, it's a spirit circle, and they go through ceremony, but they play music, and they wanted me to drum over the music. I said, okay. So I started doing that, and then I picked up the shekeres. I was in the circle dancing with everybody and doing all that, playing the drum. And then one day, I think the second time I went, I picked up the drum and went into the spirit circle and started drumming within the circle, which is something traditional drummers don't do. You don't drum from there. You drum from the outer circle. And when I was the end of that night, now, Sarah Eagle Woman is a shaman. She is a descendant of Geronimo, who actually lived not far from here. He's an Apache.
Yeah.
Her husband is Benny the Jet Yukitis. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He's a sensei. He's karate sensei.
And
I've known his name since I was 14. What's that?
In Arizona?
In Los Angeles.
Okay, California.
So I'm doing all this, and I come out of the sacred circle with the drum, and he said, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I said, what? He said, I've always wanted somebody to drum within the circle, but the traditional drummers won't do it. He says, thank you for doing that. So from that point forward, I did that. Well, the third time I went, I'm in the sacred circle, and I'm drumming, and I'm drumming, and I'm drumming, and I'm playing on a drum like this. Huge drum. I'm walking around and dancing with it and playing it, and as I'm playing it, I disappear. I leave the room. Just go. And I ascend. Now, in my practice, I've been teaching the fifth chakra, voice, right? Voice, expression, removing the block, because this is where most of us are blocked in the expression and the speaking, because of low self-esteem, low self-worth, myriad of reasons.
Playing little me.
Yep. So I ascend, and I meet God. I meet Creator Great Spirit. And Creator Great Spirit says, you, the drum, your voice, and the mallet are one. Oh. So I say, okay. And I come back into the room. And at the end of the spirit circle, the journey, Sarah Eagle Woman, she always anoints us with a little oil and, thanks us for our work. And she said, what did you bring into the room? She says, there were ancients in here. They were giants. I said, oh, I'm glad to know that. And I told her, I whispered to her, I ascended. And I was with Creator Great Spirit. And he told me that my hand, the mallet, my mouth, my voice, and the drum are one. Oh. So I've been doing this ever since. I wasn't making drums yet. So I asked them where they got their drum. And they said, oh, Raymond Garcia up in the Eagle Mountain Reservation made it for us, and blah, blah, he gifted it to us or something. They won it through a raffle or something. I said, well, I want to reach him because I'd like to make a drum. So I called him, and I traveled there, spent 3 days there. One of the days was just being in the river, being in the water, walking up amongst the grandmothers and the grandfathers, the sacred stones, and allowing myself to be in nature and nurture the nature that I was about to step into. So we made this drum. Now I didn't make this drum. He made this drum. I assisted him. So that wasn't even the start of my drum making. He had me cutting high with scissors. I didn't even know what I was cutting it for, what I was doing. And I was probably doing some of it wrong, but it didn't matter because he was that gentle with me as a novice. in making drums. So he sends me on my way. I have my drum. And I start doing drum journeys in studios around Los Angeles. And then the guide said, it's time for you to make your own drum. I don't know how to make a drum. They said, order the materials and you'll make your drum. They showed me how to make a drum.
Wow.
12-inch drum that I painted the face orange, and I painted the colors of the 4 directions, the medicine wheel on the edges of it. And dead center was a crow, a black walking crow. And I played that drum for however long I needed to play it. And then the there's a little boy in Los Angeles who's a grandson of a friend of mine, who all he did at 6 years old, 5 years old, was read books on natives. And he kept saying that he was Sitting Bull. And his mom wanted to get him a drum, but I charge for a drum. They're not cheap. They're not toys. And what happened was, I was in Ojai, California. Excuse me a second. In Ojai, California, and I found a little drum, a Taos drum, which has hides on 2 sides. And I thought, I'll give him this drum. It cost me $35, and I'll just charge his grandma for the drum, whatever. And so I do ceremony. I take him up to the foothills, and a friend of mine shows up with her nephew. He must have been 4 or 5 years old. This little kid was 5, and we did ceremony. And I gave him 2 choices because I had feathers on both drums. One, my drum had a duck feather and woodpecker feathers tied to it. The other drum had a big crow feather tied to it. Now, he had to choose which drum he wanted because I was told that I needed to give him my drum. And he couldn't make the decision because he wanted the big crow feather, but he also wanted the bigger drum. So he had a little bit of conundrum, and he chose the bigger drum with the other feathers. I do ceremony with him, and then we go to lunch. His mother takes me to lunch, and we're sitting there eating, and he's looking at me. Now, mind you, when I'm doing ceremony, I don't know what other people's experience is because it's none of my business. I only know that I'm doing ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
He says, hey, how come you're talking like a white man? You were talking like an Indian in the ceremony. And I looked at him, I said, I don't know. I don't know, son. I don't know what to tell you. Because I don't know what the child sees.
Mm-hmm.
And that was heavy. That was real heavy. So from that point, I made another drum. I made myself a drum, and maybe an elk skin, which I carried for a while. And I started making more drums, and people started reaching out to me for drums, and I started making drums and making drums. And the guides, every time I made a drum, they guided me, because when I would make one, I would tie the tie, stretch it across, straight across. I would pull it, tie it, and cut it. So I had 16 single pieces, and then I would bind it together in the center to make a handle.
I'm still waiting to see that process.
What's that?
Still waiting to see that process, but continue.
Right. So over a period of time, the guide said, we're going to teach you how to use one piece.
Oh, wow.
One piece of a tie to do all of that. And I would take it and bring it across, and then I'd go to the hole next to the first hole and bring it across the hole next to that, and back, and through. And then I tied it all together. And actually, they also showed me how to tie 2 pieces together and hide the knot, hide the splice, if you will. It was a splice. Mm-hmm. So I've been making drums in that way ever since. And every time I seem to put my hands on to birthing a drum, there's some new thing that they have me do. They have me putting roses underneath the hide. And those, especially when it's for a woman, in the place of the 4 directions, and there's a medicine woman, Maritza, in San Francisco. She got an 18-inch deer hide drum from me, and the guide said, we want you to put 4 pink petals in the place of the cross, But in between that, in all the places at the top, we want you to put red petals. Now, that's a pretty high vibrational drum, but when you add roses to that, roses are the highest vibration on earth.
Really?
What happens to that drum is like, it is intense. And when I told her that, she was like, oh my God, I can't wait to see that drum. And not only did they had me do that, they had me tie a leg bone from a deer as the handle of the drum.
Wow.
So it was a very powerful medicine. And I've done several drums like that, but I never know what they're going to tell me to do until they tell me to do it. And I just say yes. See, that's the power of yes. When are our listeners going to say yes to themselves after a lifetime of no's?
Yeah. And you
Not
got
just N-O, but K-N-O. I know. What do you know? My father, when I was a kid, he would take us to the yard and he would say, I want you to rake like this. I said, okay. And he would rake like this. And I don't know what I would be doing. He would come back and, what are you doing? I said, I'm doing what you told me. He said, that's not what I told you. I told you to do it like this. And I said, okay. So he'd go off and I'd start doing my thing and I'd end up doing whatever I was doing. And he would come back and he would say, what are you doing? I said, what you showed me. He says, I told you to do it like this. I said, I know. He says, you know. He says, I said, yeah, I know. He says, what do you know? I said, I don't know. Right? We always want to know something because our ego won't let us say, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's okay to not know. And it's okay to know. I don't apologize for anything that I say or anything I talk about because I truly know that I speak from a place of knowing that I never learned from a book. I never learned from, the guide said, do this. I said, okay, that's learning in the doing, right? I said, I'm in the being of my doing and the doing of my being. Not in the thinking, I'm not in the wishing, I'm not in the wanting, I'm in the doing of the being of the doing. That is powerful, and people don't understand it. They'll say, you know what I think? I'm like, no, I don't want to know.
I want to know what you know.
But if you tell me what you feel, I'll know what you know. Oh. Tell me what you feel, I'll know what you know. I've never said that before till today. See, and I laugh. Hear my laughter. I have a friend named Corey, and I just saw her last week when I was in Los Angeles. She would always say, you need to smile on your videos. You're always too serious, especially when I was on the talk show, because I didn't feel like anybody was watching me, so I didn't care. I was always really serious. And now I'm like, I'll be doing a talk with a panel with 3 or 4 people, and somebody will say something, I'll just start laughing because it makes me smile to hear things now, you know. I'm able to do what I do and not take myself so seriously. It's serious work, it's important work, but it doesn't have to be like, you know, brain surgery.
Yeah, that's a gift too, just being able to laugh.
Yeah.
You know? A lot of people don't know how to laugh, and a lot of people don't know how to laugh at themselves, you know? Take life too
seriously. And not only that, they don't know how to cry.
Yeah.
Oh, be a man, buck up. No, fuck that.
Yeah.
I always tell people, it's okay, cry. Don't stop yourself. And when I'm with somebody who's crying, I never reach out and touch them and stop them and say they're there, or I don't say like it'll be all right. I'm like, go ahead and cry, please do that.
I mean, like, I'm a grown-ass man, and I mean almost every ceremony, not every single one, but pretty much every ceremony I've done, I came out of it with tears in my eye, mostly tears of joy, just for how all the beauty and the light I was shown and all the love I was shown. And I mean, when you come out of a space of higher realm and higher consciousness where you can see all the beings that are around you every day that love you and care about you and that got your back, you can't see that and not come back to this plane crying tears of joy, just thankfulness and gratitude of how much love I receive on a daily basis that just keeps me alive. And oh man, yeah. I definitely learned that. I went through my whole adult life not thinking, like you said, thinking it was not okay to cry. You know.
People think that love is what we get from somebody else. You know, that's what we're taught through Hallmark, through Valentine's Day, through all those. Well, you know, if I get money for my birthday, they love me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, the best thing we can do as humans is feed each other.
Yeah.
Not necessarily with food, but food, but from a place of love,
Nourishing.
nourishing, help others to nurture their nature.
Yeah. I like
Well,
that.
what is my nature? My nature is to love, to be love, and to love. Not necessarily be loved,
Mm-hmm.
but to be love, show myself as love, and that's what people see when they see me, and share love and give love.
Mm-hmm.
A whole.
I like
Now, where I come from, you don't talk like that. I don't. Better put that on the down low, because you know they're going to think you're queer or you're some sort of weirdo or something. You know what? They thought Jesus was queer or weirdo. He was with 12 dudes, man. He was the master. I'm not a master. I never will wear that, put that label on myself. But you know, I have a lot to say. I have a lot to do, and I have a lot to teach. And if somebody's willing to listen, if I'm in a crowd of 199 leave, that's okay. That's okay. I'm good with that.
Yeah. Now, see, I'm very, very similar situation coming from, you know, city like LA is like, you know, that's where, you know, like what's going on now. Back when Rodney King got killed, you know, that city was very, very instrumental in showing how violent it could be. Chicago's, you know, murder capital right now. And I mean, I've spent 22 years there amongst, you know, a lot of gangsters and gangbangers and, you know, mafia kind of types too, and you know, in the different circles I was floating in for years. And honestly, if you had told me 20 years ago, when I was say 24, 25 years old, if you had told me that I would be preaching love to people and doing ceremonies and you know and you know just being involved in the shamanic realm, I would have just laughed at you because I didn't see that for myself at that time. I would have, because at that time I thought that what you just said, someone would think I'm you know that I'm soft now if I'm talking about love, you know.
You're
But
being kind.
but what I learned over the years was that that God is a gangster. God is the ultimate gangster. There is no gangster harder than God.
He's
God,
the G.
you know, he's the realest gangster, the realest OG, right? So when
He's the G.
when I looked at it like that, it gave me the fortitude to be able to talk to gangsters about love and about God. And I ended up leaving Chicago last year as someone who does not sell drugs, does not own a gun, I don't delve in anything illegal. I quit drinking, I quit smoking weed, I quit everything that I used to do. I've quit over the past several years, you know, weeding the lower vibrational things out of my life. And I got to a place where I can talk to anybody that I know in Chicago about shamanic stuff, and they honor me for it. And I never thought I would be there. I never thought I would be there. I never thought I would be someone like, you know, that could, like you, that could have a conversation about love and not feel like I'm soft. And because I came from a place of a gangster mentality, but you know, you eradicate that, you let that person die, you know, and you move forward. But I'm just glad to be at a place where I can have those kind of conversations with gangsters.
I'm glad you made it.
And once you know how to talk like a white man, but you also know how to talk like your people, if you will. I mean, I'm half black and half white, so I mean, I don't really, I consider humans to be my people. But what I mean is that I came up in the barrio like you. I came up talking with a more ebonics and slang, and I've learned how to bridge the gap between love language, shamanic speak, and bringing that to the street talk, to the hip hop world that I kind of delved in for most of my life in music and everything. So I've learned how to bridge that gap and bring those kind of concepts to people. And I'm really, really happy and grateful that I got to that place. I think that that's part of my purpose. Like there's a lot of people that, like Jesus came and he hung out with some of the, what they call the low lives, you know what I mean? Because they're the ones who needed it. He didn't have to. The Pharisees and Sadducees, they are all high and mighty, and we know that God loves us. Then, then they didn't need him. He came to the people that needed him the most. And that's what I kind of look at myself. The couple of times in my life where I've been incarcerated, I was a light in there. I wasn't in there, screwing off every day. I was in there reading books, gaining knowledge, meditating and working on my mind and working on how can I be better so that I don't have to come in here no more. But while I'm in here though, why don't I help a few of you guys out? And I never got judged for that. I never got clowned for that. I never got ridiculed for being on something better, because of if people know that it's authentic and they know that you're real and they don't see a crack in your magnetic field and the integrity's there of your magnetic field, all they can do is honor it. But it's when they see you using, oh, I'm a Jesus freak now, I've been in jail, you come. So, I've seen a million people, they come to jail and then they immediately start going to church in jail, but as soon as you get back out, you start smoking crack again. It's like that kind of disintegritous stance on ascension is easy to see through. And no one's gonna honor that. They're gonna call you soft for that. You know what I mean? So it's just curious that you brought that up. I had to go on a tangent with that. But I had a question.
No worries. It's important. It's important for you to point those things out and talk about yourself in that way, because it's your path. Those are the stepping stones to today.
Yeah.
And those are necessary.
Yeah, very necessary.
Yeah. Everything that you did in your past life is very necessary. Now you're about 50, 49, 50?
44.
Oh, you're 44. Oh,
yeah.
You still got a few years to go until you become an elder.
Yeah.
52, according to the Mayan calendar, we become an elder.
Yeah, I got a few years to go, man.
But you're carrying a lot of medicine and you're carrying a lot of knowledge, and that's what's more important. Yeah. 44, that's 8.
my beloved is 53, 8 also, and she's an elder. So at least there's elder in my circle. You know what I mean? In my home circle. But she's a medicine woman, and she's very wise, and I'm so blessed and grateful to have her in my life. I learn a lot from her. I really do.
There you go. Beautiful.
Yeah. Well, back to your drums, I wanted to ask about how long is the process to make one drum?
I do it over a period of 2 days. Mm-hmm. What we do is like a group will come here, or I'll at sunset, I will start doing ceremony with the elements, and then when the sun goes down, I will put it in the water. It's usually about 2 hours, and then the next day, the hide will be softened in the water overnight. And if there's a new moon or a full moon, even better. And then the next day at sunrise, I usually go out and I have a bite to eat. I take my coffee and a bite to eat, open the portal with tobacco. In fact, I start everything with tobacco. I've been smudging the whole time you and I have been talking. That's probably why I was coughing. Mm-hmm. I smudge. I open the portal with tobacco. I open the portal of the water with sage and tobacco. And I pull the elements out of the water, and they get saged, and they get more tobacco intention, and then the frame gets saged and tobacco intention and prayers and all of those things. And it's usually, for me, honestly, in about less than an hour, I'll have a drum standing still ready to dry, that's drying. Probably in about 45 minutes.
Wow. I thought I really.
That's how proficient I am at that.
Yeah, that's cool. I was just curious because I didn't really attend the workshop that my beloved went to, and I was just, while we've been talking and I was talking about her making it, it hit me that I really don't know how long the process was. That's why I was curious, and I was thinking maybe my listeners might want to know as well, just a little bit more in depth on the process of actually making it. How difficult it is and how much work goes into it.
Now, when there's a group of people here, let's say 5 or 6 people, it's 3 hours the first night, because we go through everybody one at a time. And then the next day, it's probably about 2 or 3 hours. So you're talking about 6 hours total. And then, the longest part about making a drum is waiting for it to dry. But the fun thing for me is I'm like a little kid. I'll come inside after it's done, and then 5 minutes later, I'm outside looking at it and seeing how the hide is drying, looking at the color. Because when we take it out of the water, we make the drum. It's very opaque in color, and then as it dries, it starts to take on more color. It gets darker, it gets yellower, it gets golden. Sometimes it takes on the color of the tobacco, and you'll see specks on the drum from the tobacco and different things. And it's just an amazing process to me. And I'll go back inside, and then 5 minutes later, I'm back outside and back inside. And I mean, it's funny to watch. I have a roommate who's an artist who lives here, and he just kind of giggles because he watches me, and I'm like a little kid back and forth, waiting for the ice cream man to come. And until it's dry, I'm touching it and I'm feeling it and I'm looking at it, and so for me, the process is probably a lot longer, because I'm so enamored with the medicine. But it's fun to watch the people that I teach to do this, because they just light up. They're just like, they get so excited. They are so happy. And they'll call me for weeks afterwards, or send me text messages or messages through Facebook about, their drum and the medicine. It lights people up, and it lights me up,
That's good. Let me tell you a quick little story about something that I experienced touching a drum one time. And this is one of the reasons why I got so, drum crazy and wanting to get more into drumming and learning more about it, especially. I touched the drum one day at a friend's house, and I was like holding it like this, and I did this. Just barely touching it with my fingernails. Not hard, just barely touching it. And I mean, I was completely sober. And it was like an instant download of memories of a time when I used to drum using a drum for language. I was in a society, it could have been like Lemuria. I'm not sure exactly when it was, but the flashes I was getting, I was kind of like down off of like at the bottom of a high cliff, and it seemed like we lived in pods that were hanging above the cliffs or something like that. But I was like down in like in a little cut, hiding where it's like really, really quiet, and I would do this like, and I would send a message with a few strokes of the drum, just barely touching it though, because it was so quiet that just that, and our ears were so sensitive in the civilization I was living in that like they could hear it, everyone could hear it, but the message was for someone and they knew who it was, and then they'd say something back and I'd hear their drum, and it was like we were communicating by just tapping a drum. And I don't remember the language, I don't remember exactly where we were, but that flashback was so real and so solid of a memory, it blew my mind, it blew me away, and I knew that I have to make a drum. That's beautiful. I'm gonna remember this. I didn't tell you this the other day when we talked, but I knew I'd bring that up.
See, that's the kind of thing, when that happens, you can't explain it. You don't know how to explain it away, right? Excuse it away. I was, the first time I came to drum in Sedona, I was going to drum up at Bell Rock. Bell Rock is this beautiful monolith. And next to it, there's a place called Courthouse Butte, which is even bigger. And I was with a friend of mine, Mina, and we were trying to get there before sunset because I wanted to drum I like to drum as the sun goes down, and I go from light to shadow to dark. And we too late, but we got there. We set up set up the camera. It was dark, and the purpose of the drumming was for people to journey. So sit down, lay down, whatever it is. There's nothing to see, just to hear. And I did that, and as I started drumming, this breeze came through between Courthouse Butte and Bell Rock. Now these are mountains. These are giant monoliths. These are huge, like El Capitan in Yosemite or something. Just the breeze came through. And the next day, in the morning, I was home, And a friend of mine called me, Donna McGinnis. She's actually a healer, and she's actually my healer. She carries one of my deer high drums with a deer bone in it. She said, "Were you doing the ceremony last night?" I'm like, "No." And she says, "Are you sure?" I said, "Yeah, why?" She says, "I had this dream that you were drumming last night." I said, "Well, yeah, I was drumming." She goes, "Well, that's ceremony for you." And I started laughing. I said, "Oh, okay. Oh, okay." And I said, "Why?" She said, "I had a dream that you were drumming and you were surrounded by the ancient ones, the ancient ancestors. And between each ancient ancestor, there was a giant crow feather."
The breeze.
And I was like, "Oh, yeah, man." I mean, we're 500 miles from each other. And that was her experience with it.
Wow.
You know, so people say, "You're not going to believe this." I'm like, "Don't you know who I am?" You can't say that to me, because I believe, I know. I've seen more, I've seen and heard and experienced more than people really understand. You know, they don't see what I see. They don't know what I know. I say the things that I say because, and I say this, I don't speak from a knowing, I speak from experience. So it is a knowing, but an experiential knowing.
Gotcha.
It doesn't come from a book.
Yeah. So what do you, or do you mind discussing any other plant medicines that you might use in your practice, or anything that you feel might go hand in hand with drumming as far as plant medicines go?
I use sage. I use tobacco. I blend my own tobaccos. If you smell the tobacco, that you don't even know there's tobacco, because there's mint, there's roses, there's lavender, and a lot of these plants are wild. They grow wild here, so I just put them in there. The tobacco that I use is tobaccos that are given to me by others. If they want to make a drum with me, they have to bring tobacco. If they want to rattle, they have to bring tobacco. But I blend all this, and because I want what I do to be earth medicine. These drums are earth medicine. I don't call them native drums, because, you know, natives get bent out of shape when you use words like that, because they've been marginalized over 500 years. And, you know, and not that I'm not native, I am native, but I want to respect them, because I didn't grow up on a res or any, I never knew my people.
Yeah.
You know, I've never known my people.
Same here. Yeah, I have a great grandmother who's who's Blackfoot, and another great grandparent is Cherokee. I met the great grandmother, I met the Blackfoot, the great grandmother, and she died when I was younger. But I never really got to be with her people. I never got to, mingle in any Native American tribes. I've never been to a powwow. I've always wanted to kind of get involved in that kind of community, but I just haven't had the opportunity yet. But I'm sure.
I grew up in the suburbs of San Fernando Valley, in San Fernando, Pacoima. Okay. But as I stepped into my medicine, I was reading a book by a guy from LA. It's called It Calls You Back. He grew up in the ghetto, in the barrio, and the hardships. He became a poet laureate. And I read that book, and I talked about, he lived in a place called Highland Park. Well, I lived in Highland Park. He talked about living in San Fernando. I was born in San Fernando. He talked about doing sweat lodge in San Fernando. And I didn't know there was a sweat lodge in San Fernando. My healing practice, my teaching, what they taught me about healing, I learned in San Fernando at a kindergarten, Catholic kindergarten school that I went to when I was 5 years old, when they started slapping, hitting me, and all that stuff. That school is now a retreat center, and that's where the classes were being held, right? So all this stuff was taking place around San Fernando. So I thought, and this guy was married to a woman named Trini, Trini Cardenas, who was a sister of a friend of mine, Tony Cardenas, who was a congressman from this part of LA.
Okay.
We went to high school together. So I thought, I got to go to this sweat lodge. I have to find this sweat lodge. So she owns a place, and he owned a place called, not Tony, but the poet, I think his name is Alex, I can't remember his name, in Silmar, California, called THC Cultural Center. So I went there and I asked them, hey, I read that you guys do sweat lodge. I was told to come here. And they said, oh, call this guy. So I called this guy named Pico. Picos is one of the elders. I called Picos. He said, yeah, we do it at the how did you hear about us? I told him, he said, okay. He says, when you come, if you come, you need to bring a towel. You need to bring tobacco. You need to bring food to share at the end of ceremony. And you need to bring maybe a donation or water. So I did that. And I've been doing that ever since. And I found my community. Now, they're all different. They're Apache, they're Yaqui, they're Tarahumara. I'm Tarahumara. I'm Perepeche. I'm also Chichimeca from my father. They're from different nations and native nations. And but that particular lodge, which is in San Fernando, was sanctioned by a Lakota medicine man, I believe in South Dakota or Arizona. I'm not sure. And so I've been taught the traditional way to do lodge. And I also at some point became a water pourer within the lodge. But I got to tell you, the ceremony of lodge had changed my life so much that when there wasn't any lodge, I used to get upset. You know, during the holidays or rainstorms or whatever, they take vacations.
It's in a teepee, right?
It's kind of we call it an anipi. It's kind of a dome-shaped a frame covered with blankets. And what I learned there, in fact, I was having this conversation with somebody yesterday. They asked what I learned in lodge. What I learned was how to be still. What I learned was when you don't have ceremony, you carry ceremony within you. What I learned is when there is no ceremony, you create your own ceremony. So I've been doing that ever since for the last 6 years, 7 years, maybe. Yeah.
Gotcha. So I would say that the majority of my listeners are in urban areas. Definitely not everyone. I have listeners, people, friends from all over the world, but most of the people I'd say were in urban areas. What would you say would be some advice on utilizing drum medicine and making that part of your life's ceremony in an urban area where you don't have a whole lot of, like, there's some people who just really don't have access to the woods, that don't have access to, you know, to the suburbs and stuff, you know. I mean, I've met people in Chicago, literally. I met a friend that told me he was 35 years old and he had never left the west side of Chicago in his entire life. He had never been downtown. Yeah. Never once. So for people like that, people who might not have access to nature, right? If they were to get a drum, like how would you recommend them using that to connect and to use a drum as medicine? What advice would you give people for that?
Be still and be here now. Be in the gift of your presence and the presence of your gift. Wherever you are is sacred ground. Why? Because I say so, because you say so, because he says so. Create the sacred circle. Honor the sacred circle. Honor the place of the medicine wheel, the place of the four directions. Direction of the east, direction of grandfather, son, direction of the male energy, manifestation. It's the right side, the right male side. It's the place of springtime, new beginnings. It's the place of the born and the unborn, springtime. Honor the place of the south. The place of the south is a place of the child. Is a place of spirit. It's a place of a snake medicine, wolf, protector. It's a place of air. Heart, air, summertime. The direction of the west, the direction, and they can learn these things. They can choose. I learned this stuff because I would repeat it. Direction of the west, direction of the woman, direction of grandmother moon, 28-day cycle, letting go. Direction of the ocean, emotion, EMOCEAN, direction of autumn, fall, letting go of the leaves. It's also the direction of abundance, gathering of the harvest in the autumn time. To go into the den of the north, the place of the ancestors, the place of rest, the place of earth, the place of winter, the place of the bear that goes into the den, a place of rest. Once you get into the habit and the learning and the speaking of those things and the being of those things. See, when I talk about them, I go there. I'm there. I'm in the desert. I'm on the snow-capped mountains. I'm in the den. I'm in the east. I'm in the wherever it is, in the west. The ocean. Excuse me. I go there. I take myself there. So I create the sacred space. As soon as I light the sage, sage is a disinfectant. It clears the energies. And set the intention of the clearing. Don't just light sage and not have an intention. And when people are ready, they step into their other medicines and they start. The old saying: when the student's ready, the teacher appears. So it's just a matter of creating that sacred space. I mean, the lodge that I go to in LA, it's in the backyard of a recovery house. Sober living. It's been there for 15 years.
Wow.
The mountains are only 3 miles away, but that's where they created the space.
Wow.
So it could be anywhere. And when I would go out to gather sage or harvest, I sit down on the earth. I sit with her. I'm part of her. I become her. She becomes me. Pachamama, Madre Tierra, a great mother, Mater, Mother Earth.
When you're
created.
When you're giving classes to teach like 4, 5, 6 people how to make drums, everyone barefoot, or is that a factor?
They can be, but here where we have gravel out back, red rock, so they can bring like flip-flops or something. I recommend that. But if we're on the cement, they take their shoes off and they can do that. Whenever somebody comes to one of my drumming other events, I'm the example. I take my shoes off and I ask them to do the same. I want them to. It's an honor to put your feet on the earth.
Yeah, that's why I was asking.
Excuse me. We've been disconnected from it for so long with Nikes and Reeboks and cowboy boots and all kinds of other stuff.
Yeah. So is Sedona? Is there arable land in Sedona, or is Sedona like desert?
Sedona's desert, but there's plants and trees. I mean, we're at 4,000 feet. We're on the way to Flagstaff. So up in Flagstaff, there's pines and cedars and different things. It changes, and it can change real quickly depending on where you drive to. But here where I'm at, it's mostly desert.
Yeah, that's what I'm curious about. Is like, is the desert sand there alkaline? Like, I've never been to any desert in my life except for when I went to Burning Man in 2018. I went to Burning Man, and like I spent most of the time there walking with shoes on, but I did spend a little time walking barefoot just because I wanted to walk in the desert barefoot. But people there were advising to not get the sand on your feet because it's alkaline or radioactive or something like that. And I was just curious as to if walking on soil to connect with the Mother Earth is the same as walking on desert sand, or is that not?
There's places here where you don't want to walk without shoes. And then there's places like when I'm out on the red rocks, I'm not wearing shoes. It's the red rocks. It's just like it's very fine. And it you'll see it on your feet as you walking on your shoes. It gets on everything, but it's
like clay.
It's like it's like a sandstone, more like a sandstone, but little hardier. So walking on it's no problem. I love being barefoot up there. Wherever it is I'm at. If I'm on the red rock, I'm without shoes. Especially when I'm sitting at the creek or something and I'm sitting on the red rock and I have my feet in the water. I make sure that when my feet are in the water, they're touching the red rock that's underneath the water.
Mm. Okay. Just curious,
Very good.
because I've never been in, I've never been involved in any kind of medicine work while I was out west, and I've never been to California. Vegas is as far west as I've been, so I still have a lot of exploring to do out of that side of the country. I had another question I wanted to ask you regarding that area. I've been researching a lot about Tartaria. Are you familiar with this term?
What is it?
Tartaria. You ever heard of there's a Google account, I'm sorry, a YouTube account called Mud Floods, I think is the name of it. Have you heard of this guy?
Uh-uh.
Okay, well, the premise behind the Tartaria movement is the releasing of a lot of different scholarly analyses of buildings that have been attributed to modern man, but were or that were attributed to Europeans who came over here, but were actually here before they came here, and they built on top of those buildings, or either redid those buildings. But they're saying that there was a civilization that was here before the mud floods. So roughly about maybe several hundred years ago, there was
like Mexico City.
Yeah, I mean the Tartaria theory is that history is a lot more false than what we're being told, and that all of these different buildings and all of these different civilizations that are just under a layer of mud are all coming up to show that, like, no, the Native Americans that were here, like, there was high technology here on this continent way before, and so I was just curious as to, have you seen buildings like that out in California or out in Arizona?
Well, they have them here. The pueblos are like that. The cliff dwellings and that sort of thing. What people don't, what the white man won't tell you is the Mayans and the Aztecs created the concept of zero. Mm-hmm. They'll attribute it to Einstein or some fool. Like, that wasn't true. Just like all the history that we're taught, not true.
Yeah, I don't believe it.
And they're in the Arizona desert, Colorado, Utah. I mean, you see the dwellings. The dwellings are there. I'm Tarahumara. My people lived in the Copper Canyon in Chihuahua, Mexico.
Spell that.
Copper Canyon.
Tarahumara.
Tarahumara. Tara. Hold on. Tarahumar.
Gotcha.
R-A. Yeah, Tarahumara. Or Rumari, or they call us the Rumari. They're from the Copper Canyon in Mexico, and that Copper Canyon is way bigger than the Grand Canyon. And they still live in that canyon, and they say that we are 5-pointed stars that have come to Earth to live, and one day we will return back to the stars.
Another question I'll ask that, since I got you here, I'm curious about some things. I've been researching a lot on the ancient history, the pre-Diluvian history of this planet. And there's a gentleman, I don't know if you've heard of him. He ran for president of South Africa a couple years ago. His name is Michael Tellinger.
I've heard the name, but don't know anything about him.
If you maybe get a chance, get on YouTube, and he's got a website, michaeltellinger.com, but he has a plethora of the most amazing evidence. All of these gold mines, ancient gold mines that are like 400,000, over 400,000 gold mines scattered across South Africa. And some of them are the patina on some of these stones. It's like they're like 2 million years old. So the actual physical geological evidence of gold mining 2 million years ago, it shatters the timeline of any historian's worldview you can imagine. So I guess the reason I brought it up was because in this theory, I mean, I don't even want to say theory because I think I've seen enough to show me that what he's presenting as evidence is very, very valid. I mean, he's really changing the world with what he's presenting. And he gives lectures all over the world. There's another gentleman named Klaus Donner from Austria, and they both kind of piggyback off of each other's evidence, and they give each other a lot of, you know, acknowledgments in their work because they're in the same field of work, and they both present a lot of evidence to show that there was very, very high technology a lot longer ago than we're being told. So what I'm asking is because you mentioned the Grand Canyon. What I've seen, and also there's a guy from Russia who put out a documentary called, what was it? There Are No Forests on Flat Earth. Now, regardless of this, I'm not trying to bring that up to get into the flat earth, round earth controversy, but the evidence presented in that video with regard to ancient mining and giant trees and the giant life that used to be on this planet, the evidence presented in that is really, really mind-blowing, for me at least. And if you look at, if you look at the Grand Canyon, it looks like an ancient mining. It looks like it was mined. And not only that, there's places like that all around the planet that look like excavation took place there. Because when you look at a modern excavation site, it looks exactly like the Grand Canyon. And so I'm curious as to what your take would be on that.
I wouldn't doubt it. You know, the reason people have been mining gold for millions of years is because it's the purest conductor there is.
Yeah.
Simply. Have you heard of Devil's Tower? I believe it's in Colorado or Wyoming or something.
Yeah, that's a tree. I believe that's an ancient tree.
It's a tree, giant tree. If you look at the mesas out here in Arizona, giant trees. I've been hiking in mountains where all this shale, right? It looks like bark to me.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And it looks like they cut down these giant trees, and it's like, I'm just a pissant in time, right? I'm the smallest version of the vastness of time, and just because some claim to know doesn't mean that they know. And who am I to doubt?
Yeah.
With the possibility, who am I to doubt me looking around? I look around my neighborhood and there's mounds here that look like pyramids. Like they could have been pyramids. I'm not far from Tuzakut, where the natives lived here. The Apache lived not too far away. And there's a copper mine probably at 2 miles from here. 3 miles. A copper mine in the surrounding mountains. So yeah, I mean, and it's always near water. What did they say created the Grand Canyon? Water. Really? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's what they say, but they say lots of things.
When I was a child, that didn't make sense to me. I was like, I'm not saying that water isn't powerful, but it just didn't look like water did that to me. I never, well, how come it only did it there? And all the other rivers don't do it. It just never made sense to me. It was like, but and another thing was when that you mentioned Devil's Tower, in that documentary, There Are No Trees on Flat Earth. It's on YouTube. I found it there. In that, the first thing he talks about is Devil's Tower, and he says, "Look, what you see." That he starts the video off with saying, "Look at this. What do you see? You see a mountain. I see a tree stump." And he has a picture of a tree stump next to this, and you're just like, okay, well, show me more evidence. And he spends most of this video basically giving you evidence, showing you pictures that are 150, 200-year-old pictures of, early 1800s or whenever photography first started. They have pictures of like 200 men around a tree. I mean, standing on top of a tree they just cut down, and it's like bigger than the sequoias that like are still around today. They're huge, and I just never even knew trees that big existed. But in this video, he's given a lot of evidence on the ancient huge trees, and that they might have been made out of silicone, like silicone life. And so that's a really whole nother tangent of like research that I got into that I thought was pretty interesting. And because you live out that way, and I've never really experienced much out there other than going to Burning Man. I don't know anything about, I've never been through anywhere out west. You know, I've been to Vegas and Burning Man. I've never spent any time in the deserts, driving through there, none of that. So I was curious, since you live there, maybe you had any insight on it.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I see. I see trees. When I see the mesas, I see trees. Oh, they cut, I mean, just miles and miles of gigantic forest stumps.
Yeah.
You know, the natives here, the Navajo, you know, some of them are the Mesa people, the Mesa clan, they call themselves. You know, they live on the mesas, on top of the Hopi live on top of the mesas, you know. There's a reason for that. There's a lot of energy there, you know, circular energy from the, you know, my first video was about oak trees that were across from each other and the circular energy that was happening between the branches and the roots that I was standing in. The very first video. So my understanding of that is, I get why they would live there. You know, on top of a tree stump. You
know, when I started the THC show, it was like maybe 3-4 years ago. It was like 2016, I think. After about my third episode, I came across something on Google Earth, and I did a little quick screen share. I videoed my screen while I was going through it and did a little a walkthrough to get to this place. And it was just like, I called it like a THC news brief. And it was about a tree that I found, or foliage that I found in Madagascar. So on my channel, on my YouTube channel, and there's a video, it's a THC news brief, and it's about a giant tree that I found. And I zoom in on it and I show people exactly how to get there. And it's like, you can see the foliage. It's like a huge, like cedar pine needle kind of tree. And I mean, you can see the mountain, you can see the plateau, that's the tree stump, and then you can see all this foliage and leaves and branches all around it. I mean, these things are miles long. So it's like, to me, that was enough to convince me that there has been ancient trees in our past. But how much evidence is there to, you know, convince the rest of the world? I don't know. But I think that as we're getting smarter and as the internet is allowing us to share information worldwide, I think that a lot of these things are going to be coming to light, and a lot of the history that we've been fed, spoon-fed since birth, is all going to be, you know, washing, swept under the rug real soon.
They convinced the world to stay in their homes for 2 months.
Wow. Oh yeah, let's talk a little bit about what's going on today.
No, it's I'm actually have another appointment in a short time, but
okay.
Yeah. So today, you know, what are you going to do? You know, I'm going to tell you a story. I was in Los Angeles, and there was I was there for a friend, and her dog died, and she had the dog cremated, so she wanted to do ceremony. So we went up to the canyon, pretty popular canyon where people hike. We did that, and we were on our way down, and she picked a sprig of sage, you know, maybe 3 or 4 leaves of it. You know, it was a little sprig. She didn't, you know, she asked permission of the plant. The plant said yes, and she honored it. And on the way down, there was this lady, Asian lady, Chinese, I want to say. She says, "Oh, you have sage," and she came up and smelled it with my friend. And another lady, an American woman, a white woman, stopped and said, in fact, she was walking with those poles.
Yeah.
You know, those walking poles. And she said, "You shouldn't pick that. Then everybody will pick it, and there won't be any for anybody." I said, "There are no shouldn'ts here." I said, "Besides, this country was built on you people taking." And she looked at me and she went, "I don't have anything to say to that." I said, "Good." And while I'm standing there, I get pushed to the ground by the guides. My friend Shakoba looks at me. Now, Shakoba's a shaman. She looks at me, she says, "What are you doing?" I said, "They just pushed me down." I said, "I should have kept my mouth shut. I wasn't here wasn't supposed to reprimand her. That was not my thing. I already know what I know. I don't have to say it. Right? Now, here's what I know about that woman. Here's what I know about a lot of Americans. and they're not going to like this. I walk in the way of balance, in the way of beauty. In the way of balance, in the way of beauty. That's walking within the medicine and the medicine wheel, right? Here's this woman with these poles. Now, I don't care where I go hiking, I don't use a stick and I don't use poles. You know why? Do you know why?
Why?
Because I walk in the way of balance. I have balance. This woman doesn't have balance. She doesn't trust her own body to go up that hill or go down that hill. She has no trust. She has no faith. Where's your God? What God? Exactly. I trust that I have the ability to go to the highest mountain and come back down. Or back down into the deepest canyon and come back up. Walk in the way of balance, walk in the way of beauty. There's many in this country that don't know what that is, and there's an imbalance in this country, and it's always been for 500 years. You know, we were just talking about gold. When the Spanish came here, long before anybody else did, they were always asking the Indians, the natives, you know, from Mexico to South America to Central America to North America.
Where's the gold?
They're looking for gold. And the reason they ended up actually in the United States, what's now known as the United States, but this is all America, you know, despite what white men think and white people say, this is all America, whether you're in Canada, whether you're in Brazil, in Central America, it's all America.
Yeah.
They would say, "Ayah, ayah." They had the Spanish chasing their tail because they were looking for the ancient gold, the gold, the gold, the gold. Ayah, 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 ayah. You know, Alabama. Do you know why it's called Mobile, Alabama? That's not a white name. That's a Spanish name. Mobile. Mobile. It came from the Spaniards. They were there. They were there, you know. And if you watch the movie Dances with Wolves, now I'm not saying Dances with Wolves is exact history, but the chief shows the white man, the Dances with Wolves character, a helmet from a Spaniard helmet that he has in a burlap sack, you know. There's such an imbalance in this country, and you hear people say things like, speak English, that arrogance of, they don't even speak English. They don't even, you know, what they don't understand is, and then there's the natives, there's people of color, POCs. I'm a POC, who we say, you know, those white people also have an indigenous nature that they've forgotten about.
Yeah.
It could be Scots, it could be Gaelic, Irish, it could be the English, it could be Roman, it could be Czech, it could be African, it could be Japanese, it could be anything.
They lost it all to empire.
Come here and they've forgotten who and what they are.
Empire.
Because they're blinded by gold. They're blinded by more. I know a woman here in Anthem. In fact, she's a follower of 45. She is from Minnesota.
Wow.
She lives here with 2 kids, and she lives in a 4,000 square foot home that she just bought. Do 3 people need a 4,000 square foot home?
Not unless they really eat a lot of McDonald's to fill that up, but you know.
And they claim everything. They put a flag on everything. You know, it's like, we don't have to do that because we already know.
Take from the land what you need,
So,
and you'll always be okay.
So this is about taking. This country is about taking. It's not about giving. It's not about of the people and for the people. That's a lie. I just said it. It's a lie. My name is Walking Crow. I live in Cornville, Arizona. It's a lie. You can come get me anytime you want. So the people let this, the reason these things happen is because the people allow it.
Yeah.
What do you mean you're joining? They believe this. They believe this story. I fought for freedom for this country. Fuck you. No, you didn't. You didn't fight for shit. If war comes from another country to this land and it comes knocking at my door, guess who's going to be the biggest warrior around? Well, the first weapon, I'll pick up these scissors and I'm going to stab you in the eye. I don't care how peaceful I am. But I'm not going to go fight for white, fat men who all they want is gold, oil, diamonds. In fact, when I was in Mexico 68, we had a song called Gold, Oil, Diamonds. That talks about all that. It's about selfishness. It's about greed. The Spaniards, Isabella or whoever sent the Spaniards here, they sent Columbus here to explore and for gold. All the pirate stories that you hear about in the Caribbean and in Mexico and Louisiana and all those places, Cuba, that was all about gold.
Yeah.
There's so many Spanish ships that have been sunk in the Caribbean and in the Gulf that were taking gold. They never made it back.
Yeah.
It's all about selfishness and money.
Yeah.
They don't have shit in Europe. Nobody goes there for resources. They don't have shit. Right? So they plunder the Dutch, the Germans, the Spaniards, the English, plunder the rest of the world for what it is that they want.
Yeah. Well, it looks
The
like
Dutch,
the world,
South Africa, the Dutch.
it's starting to look like the world is kind of getting a little fed up with it, and that seems to be what is sparking this. Really, like George. People think that George Floyd, he was just the spark. This is a very, very big problem that's been going on for a long time, and I think that the world is waking up to the unfairness of the empire that's been running the planet right now, and I guess we're gonna see what happens. But look at what happened when they killed Dr. Martin Luther King. They rioted for 10 days before they passed the Civil Rights Act. And that Civil Rights Act was a big piece of legislation. Like a lot of people are saying that, oh well, if you just lock up the cop that killed him and maybe the other 2 or 3 cops around him, if they all went to jail, that's not gonna stop this, because the Pandora's box is open now, and now all of the dirty deeds are being aired out on every social media platform in the world, and you can't put the cap back on that. And I really wish that I could foresee where the world's going to be in 3 months, 6 months, a year. I don't know, but I do know this: it won't be anything like it is right now. I can promise you that.
Just foresee where you're going to be.
Yeah.
That is as part of the collective. Don't worry about that. That's called anxiety. Never mind that. Be right here, right now, where you are doing what you're doing, creating your message, and that's all you have to do. That's your part in the collective. There's a lot of people out there thinking that conspiracy theory and all this. You know what? The true healers are walking, not running.
Mm-hmm.
They're standing still. They're breathing, taking a breath.
Mm-hmm.
The elders, the teachers, those of us that know. I don't need to raise my fist, because if I raise my fist, you know what I can't do? I can't reach across a table and create unity.
Yeah. I see that. I thank you. I appreciate your wisdom, brother, for real. I know you got another appointment to get to, but before you go, I wanted you to at least plug your website and, tell the audience where they can find you if they wanted to get some counseling or some information or have a drum made or whatever services you offer.
So you can find me at www.sacreddrummedicine.com, www.sacreddrummedicine.com. You can reach out to me at walkingcrow@sacreddrummedicine.com or Anthony@sacreddrummedicine.com. You can find me on Facebook as Anthony J. Rodriguez, in parentheses, Walking Crow. And you can find me on YouTube. I've got over 400 plus videos on YouTube at Walking Crow, Transformational Sacred Drum Medicine. If anybody wants a healing, if you want to order a drum or talk to me about those sorts of things, You can also reach out to me at my phone number at area code 818-442-1717, and on Instagram, Walking Crow _ Sacred Drum Medicine, and that's that.
That's perfect, man. I'm glad that you were so thorough with it. I'll make sure to get those numbers on the screen and leave those links in the number in the video comment section on YouTube when I post it, and also in the Facebook group. And for you listeners, Walking Crow is now a member of the THC group, so he will be listening in on, you know, what we're doing in the group, and hopefully chiming in and giving his wisdom here and there. I definitely appreciate you, brother, man. I'm glad that we're friends now, and I hope that I'll get a chance to talk to you again soon, and hope you come back on the show and give us some more of your wisdom sometime in the future.
So you asked me to do something, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to sing Ayo Nana Owai, I Will Love You, My Child.
Yes, please.
I'm not going to sing a lot of it, but I'm going to sing enough of it so you get the sense of what the song is. And the song is a promissory song to heal the child, to heal the child within. So this is a drum. This is that big drum that I went to Eagle Mountain to make in California. I hope. So
both sides. I will love you, my child. I will love you, my child. Oh, I will. Oh, I will. Oh, Shinawana. Oh, na. Oh, Shinawana. Hey, thank you, Great Spirit. Thank you, Great Mother. Thank you, the power and the guidance of the medicine wheel, the four directions. Oh, thank you, brothers and sisters, those who've listened to what my brother has to share and what we had to say today. Oh, Shinawana. Oh, Shinawana. Thank you. Thank you, brother.
My pleasure.
That was beautiful, man. That was super. That was really, I love that melody. That was really beautiful.
Thank you.
Feel
free to sing it.
I'm sure I will. I'm sure I will. I really want to just give you a really round of applause and thank you for coming to the show and giving us your wisdom today, man. I'm sure I appreciated it, so I'm sure everyone else did too.
Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure to be able to do what I do with those who do what they do.
For
I
real.
hope.
For real. I'll sing your praises, brother. And I
All
hope
right.
and I hope some of my people come your way and give you some business and get a good, you know.
If they do, they do, and if they don't, thank you anyways.
Yeah.
You know?
That. But I just want to give you some exposure because I love when I see people doing good work and healing and helping, and I just want to do what I can to heal and help, you know, too. So spreading the word doesn't hurt.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna let you get on to your next appointment, and I'm gonna wrap up the show. Thanks so much. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, brother. Take care.